place there. It is a 36 months project. The contractor tells us they might finish it before the 36 months. That building is going to be the iconic building of Kampala city, and it will belong to the workers, pension towers. It is going to be a very good investment for the country as our infrastructure. Also to attract high-grade businesses to rent at that place within the next 2-3 years. Those are the two projects which are really moving in a mega way and which will have socio-economic impact. We have had smaller projects, a nice building in Jinja, which cost us about 3 billion shillings, 3-point-something billion shillings. Another one in Mbarara. These small offices, which will be for mixed use. We want them in several parts of Uganda. We are trying to build one in Mbale, another one in Gulu, and we shall continue to review the situation as it comes. I call those small representative offices so that also Ugandans know that NSSF is beyond Kampala. Many times people have thought of these places belonging to the city elite, but we are bringing NSSF nearer to the people who make the money in this country. We shall be, I think, opening, selling some houses within the next few months in Mbuya. There were 40 units. We'll finish them, but they are more for the high end. As a board, we get still concerned, and we get feedback from members that, look, although you are investing for us and giving us a reasonable return, we think we also need intervention in housing, low-cost housing. And we want really to review that picture of low-cost housing. So if we want to make developments, we want both low-cost, middle, and high-end, so that we get that mixed use and a good, fair return. Honorable Minister, on a bigger picture, we feel we should participate more in local businesses, small SMEs, small and medium enterprises. We have mainly been concerned because of security purposes to only invest in listed companies on the stock exchange. I think those should continue to be there, but even those which are not listed on the stock exchange, we can participate with them so that they can also get eventually listed. We want to get involved. And the other day, I was reading His Excellency's speech on 23rd of June 2016, when he had just been elected for this term. And he made 23 remarks. And when you read them, there is a way NSSF could participate, especially in the area of small business and innovation, as somebody has already mentioned. Honorable Minister, we also want to participate. You know, we are receiving 102 billion per month. 102 Uganda shillings, 102 billion Uganda shillings per month. And we don't only want to put it in government bonds and something. We think there is somewhere we could go directly and intervene. And we think in the area of agriculture, it is also an area which has nearly 67-68% of our Ugandan population participating in. We think NSSF could go and find ways, whether in irrigation schemes, whether any fertilizers, whether any good seed, whether any small processing, post-harvest handling, we think we can participate. We started off this recently by participating in a private equity fund, yield, it's called Yield Fund, also being led by the European Union. And we put there an equivalent of 2 million euro. It could be 8 billion Uganda shillings or so to assist in agriculture. Honorable Minister, other areas we are thinking of with this 102 billion saving per month is to participate in our structures and financial sophistication. We would like to participate in the recent bill on health insurance. We have given some proposals, and we shall continue to work with your office, work with the Office of Minister of Gender, work with the Minister of Health to see if we can help using our good infrastructure to collect some funding for the national health so that Ugandans can really have relative easy access to health. Health remains to be a big family worry, even for those who are in town here and earning relatively something better. Health remains a problem. Our people in the villages, as you know, you've just been there, some of them keep dying needlessly when they need a small intervention. So we think NSSF, if you were patient with us, we could participate in that program and participate very, very effectively. I have been reading this little book. Somehow I retired, so I don't have savings at NSSF because the current law says if you are above 60, you cannot save anything. Maybe in the new law, if somebody even gets, even if you're above 60, and you want to save some 5 million shillings, I think you should be allowed. But I am at a good distance without, so I can comment independently. NSSF has a very good IT system where now members don't have to walk and go in bus to check on their balances and all that. And the figures they get must be correct. So we want to, as the board, we want to ensure that that IT experience, you know, these days without technology, if you're in financial services, you may not survive well. So we want to have a robust system where we can manage members' funds with relative ease without undue waiting. The MD has been talking of paying members' monies within 8 days with pride. And he's right to be proud because some years ago you would take 3 months or so before you got your money. But also imagine the other side. If you go to your bank, you know you put there your 5 million and you go to the teller and you say, I want 1 million today because I'm going to do something. And the teller tells you, come back in 4 days. How do you feel? You know, so even the 8 days, we are saying certainly is on the high side. You've kept my money for so many years. You've been giving me records every month. Why can't you pay me in 2 days? I have my ID, I have my pictures, I have all my papers. Why don't you pay me in 2 days or so? Why 8 days? So these are the experiences we want to continue, but because systems, good systems are coming, technology systems, but they are also coming with the problems. We call it cyber crime. Somebody can easily enter a system where we have saved your 11 trillion and take off 3-4 trillion. How do you feel? Very bad. So we also want to have these systems, but with the proper safeguards. So that one is one of the envisions where we feel we should participate effectively. Now I should give a caution as I finish this strategic outlook, because we've been performing so well over the last few years. Others say over the last 5 years, others say over the last 10 years. But whatever, of recent, there is a feel. You ask, how is NSSF? People say, oh, NSSF is good. NSSF is a good organization. There is control there. Oh, there is hope there. So, people have come to love NSSF. But if you look into the area of national or of social security as envisaged by the International Labour Organization, there is much more to social security than NSSF can handle. So we are saying NSSF, we are going to handle only what we can manage. So members, don't over-pressurize your good NSSF, because if you want them to do too many things, they can easily get lost and miss the big picture. So NSSF is not going to be a panacea for all social security ills, but we shall be able to do the few which your board will choose. Now that was the strategic outlook, and that was my part B of my remarks. I want you to allow me now to comment on the NSSF Act Amendment Bill 2019. As I said in my opening remarks, I think it is the biggest challenge today at NSSF. The way that act is handled can mean great good or can mean the same or less in the future. So it is of big strategic importance. And I request that you listen a little bit to these remarks. Honorable Minister, I must start with appreciation. It is important, even in families, before you ask your spouse about something which may not be going well, it is important to start with appreciation, the good part. So we are thankful, Honorable Minister, that government eventually got the courage to amend this act, because it has been in limbo for almost 10 years. But eventually there was a cabinet paper which government considered, and you decided to amend this act. It was a big strategic decision of government. We appreciate it, because you divided and distinguished between the private sector infrastructure of NSSF, mandatory collections, and the government pension scheme. Because in the previous reform omnibus bill of 2011, you had got the two schemes, all of them in one big proposal, legislative proposal. These are two different things. NSSF monies are defined contribution scheme. It is 100% funded. All members' money, we have it. Even if they said close tomorrow, we can pay everybody's money and walk off without fail. Whereas the government scheme is an unfunded scheme, which we call pay as you go. You have to collect some money from Uganda taxpayers and pay something for the former civil servants. And many times, many of these old men and women in our villages at times don't get this money in time. So I think there is a proposal, and I want to thank Honorable Minister of Public Service, Honorable Muruli Mukasa, for having also approached the government to start a separate legislation to fund that government scheme separately away from the NSSF infrastructure. We are very grateful, and that is a fundamental point which I have not seen in the papers, separating the two schemes. The other one is fledging, it is struggling and it is having issues. Ours, we have for many years, over 30 years, tried to perfect it and we are doing very well. We are missing a few things, corporate governance here and there, leadership issues, products and something. It's very easy to amend. And the other one, when you amend it, you also have to start providing the several billions for those claimants. It's a separate thing. So we are happy you distinguished these two schemes, and this one is much easier. It was 20% of the problem. 80% of the problem was with the government scheme. And it is good. When I was doing my exams in primary school, my teacher used to say, start with the easy numbers, and then you can go to the most difficult. So it is good government has started with the easy numbers. So, Honorable Minister, we are happy you have put these proposals. They have gone beyond the Parliamentary Council. They are put in the drafts. And overall, we the board have reviewed these 20 pages or so of legislation, and we can say we are happy with about 65 to 70%. We are happy with about 2/3 of what is in those proposals. And we want to encourage members and the Ugandan public to follow within the next 1-2 months to see that this legislation really brings out the good we all desire. We are happy with about 65%. But the other 35%, some of the proposals even came from us, but they have been tampered with and adulterated and diluted and almost taken off course. We think those should be reviewed. And in my remarks, I want to make a small remark on what we think is really good. Because 65% of those proposals are really good. But the 35%, we also want to make a small remark on them as you go through this legislative process over the next 2 months or so. And we plead that really this act, let it come out in 2019. There are some good legislations which, Honorable Minister, you might know, in a week or 2-3 days or 1 month, it is finished. But, this has been on for the last 10 years or so. So we want it also to be expedited. It is good for Ugandans, it is good for the people, it is good for government program, it is good for employers, it is good for workers. I wish it came out before the end of 2019. Honorable Minister, we feel, if I started with the good, we feel that the proposal to now allow people to improve their pay package at the end, what we call voluntary contributions. The proposal to allow voluntary contributions in addition to the mandatory is an excellent proposal. People have been coming to the fund, they want to add a little more, to save a little more. We have been saying, no, the legislation does not allow. Somebody goes back with their money. But savings are good for everybody, for the individual, himself, for ourselves, and for government. The other point which we feel is good is where we are going to be allowed as a board to prescribe new benefits with consultation with your office. Otherwise, previously there have been a fixed list of about 4 or 5 benefits. You can't pay this, you can only pay this, you can only pay this. So even when we wanted to intervene for members, we didn't have the legislative base. So we feel having additional benefits prescribed by the board in the proposals is a wonderful thing. There is a proposal about in-house expertise being used. We have very good Ugandans employed at NSSF with all the best knowledge on this globe. We have trained them. Some of them we have attracted them. They can manage our pension fund very well, and we don't need somebody to come from New York and Australia, So the proposal to allow Ugandans to manage their fund is very okay without involving many of these other people from outside who may not have the best intentions for our funds. Honorable Minister, the proposal to have midterm access so that somebody can have, in many countries this has already been done. This was done 15, 20 years ago. Somebody can have, once you reach a certain age or you have served with the fund for some time, you can have 30 to 50% of your money for certain specific causes, and this should be allowed. Now, Honorable Minister, when we proposed this, somewhere within the coordinating committees, somebody took off 1, 2, 3 words and said, only for those who have made voluntary contributions, you can't access your own fund. Now, what is the whole thing? It defeats the whole purpose. People should have, all members should have access to the money they have saved. And another one was writing, oh, now the money will reduce from so many trillions to less. Our intention is not to have a cash mountain. Our intention is to serve members. So, midterm access is a wonderful idea, but somehow it needs to be refined somewhere. Now, Honorable Minister, what are the other clauses which have brought a lot of debate within the last few weeks or months? We feel we should review them. Government should review them. Parliament should review them. And our Honorable Minister is also a member of Parliament for Buyanja. So apart from being a minister, you can really go direct and give some of these views. Now, what disturbs the members out there? What have they been writing? And I brought about 4 or so clauses here for your noting. They are not happy, they don't understand this taxation. They say, you know, you might promise, you may not tax me now, but at the end you might tax me at a rate of your choice, which I don't know. So why don't we leave it as it is? If something is not broken, why do you fix it? So members are happy with the current state. Last year, NSSF, we paid 145 billion the other year. This year, in these accounts, we are paying 172 billion, I think, of taxes without complaint. So where do you, so if it is not going to bring anxiety, this taxation thing, the marginal benefit it might bring may not be much. I personally reviewed this and I saw there was some little gain for the member, little gain for the government, but people are not very sure. Even explaining to the professionals who are sophisticated is complicated. As sophisticated as the Auditor General John Muang, if you ask them to explain, it might need Francis Kamregia from Press Waterhouse. So if something is that complicated, let us maybe leave it for some time. And when people have understood it and explained it, a law is always dynamic. You can always come 5 years, 10 years later and adjust when everybody is moving with us. So the taxation bit has brought anxiety to the public. There is something about allowing the government to borrow directly from the members' fund. Honorable Minister, you hear some anxiety. Now, in my simple interpretation, I think the fund, since it was founded, has been lending to government through government bonds, through treasury bills, and a few other investment projects. But members are saying, what guarantees do we have? Those bonds and instruments are known internationally. We are not complaining. But if it is something to do with constructing some road in some constituency, we are not very sure. So I think we might need to review this clause, not to put it that brazenly that we lend to government without terms or strong terms. Maybe we could say anybody coming, if government wants more money beyond the bonds, they could come with an instrument similar to bonds or some guarantee that the money will be repaid back. But there is anxiety on that clause, on directly borrowing on a general basis from the fund. But members, as you know, 79% of your money today is nearly in those government bonds. So when you say don't, I think you are asking for guarantees. Not that they should not lend, NSSF should not lend, but we want to be sure that we shall be repaid. I think that is something that needs to be reviewed, Honorable Minister. The other one is a mandatory payment of NSSF contribution by all workers below 5, below any organization employing 5 or more. And that one, the employers and the many people I have met have continued complaining about it. They are saying, look, the idea which had been initially proposed was to, because previously people would come, they want to save, even those below 5 employees, they want to save, but they would say, no, the law does not allow. I think what we wanted was a law that allows us to, for them to save with us on a voluntary basis, not mandatory. Because we are now having about 800,000 active members. And somebody was arguing, oh, we are going, if we put this law, we are going to have 10 million savers. Of course, it is an ambitious target. But as I said, we need to go first the implementation. As people get confident with the fund, then we can bring them on board. People should come more seamlessly and spontaneously, rather than being all forced and herded into NSSF. So that first contribution, mandatory contribution, though we want to save, though we want workers' welfare, and social security is not only on savings, it's much more, as you know. And government has a big responsibility on exploring other areas of social security. So that one is another area. On this, the difficult clauses is the multiple oversight of several ministers all wanting to be in charge of NSSF. Somewhere I have met people, when I was talking about this health insurance, they said the Minister of Health must also control part of NSSF if we want to participate in that area. I'm told there are some people who move from private sector, they go to the government. Somebody was saying, and I think perhaps it is in the law, that the Minister of Public Service should take a cake and supervisory piece on NSSF. The Minister of Gender, who has led these reforms in the recent past, and we want to say thank you to those, if they are gender people here, also says, apart from giving you policy, I want to start appointing the board. I want to getting the monthly reports, and I want to take your government, your organizational programs to government. That is the Minister of Gender. The Minister of Finance, as you know, the President, I think some years back, might have been 2014 or so, or 2004, I think about 15 years ago. His Excellency, the President said, I think there were challenges with the Minister of Gender and Labor managing several billions and trillions. The Minister of Finance had the expertise, and they should manage the fund. And I think you've managed the fund over the last decade or decade and a half. Now, if you have 5, 6, 7 ministries managing the fund, that will be nobody's job. And if it is nobody's job, it will not be done. So we would love government to reflect on the multiple nature of reporting. We call it matrix reporting. Those who are in business, it can be very complicated. And it is meant, really, matrix reporting is meant to be temporary for projects. Maybe you have 6 months, something, then you can say, okay, the minister, the presidency, and something can come in and we manage this Webaja housing project for 1 year, and then it ends. But if it is going to be on for a long time, it is going to bring a lot of confusion, and all of these things which we were avoiding will come again, and then we shall start singing this other singer's song of Bizemu. And we don't want Bizemu. We don't want those things which we think we are putting back on our back to come back. So the problem of, there could be a problem we envisage, and sooner than later you will be seeing this, and some of us will not be there for the little advice. So if we can have some foresight, Honorable Minister, it is an issue that needs reflection. And for the general public and members, these proposals are there. As we have said, we have reviewed them, but you might have some pain. Look at your MP, come to us, go to the Minister of Gender, go to the Minister of Finance, go to your parliamentarians, bring some of these pains you might have, so that they come, they are reviewed in the legislation which will be passed in the next 2 months. And it is important the law is passed as soon as possible to allow NSSF to go forward. Finally, on the act, because I said I think this was the gist of my remarks, we wanted good corporate governance at the fund. And we asked for good leadership, controlled leadership, coordinated leadership, and we were saying the government or ministry in charge should appoint the board. Then the board, which should be appointed on a qualitative and meritorious basis, should appoint management. That is modern corporate governance. But now the proposals are saying appoint the board, also appoint some members, like the old law, some members of management. And in the old law, we have EXCO, I think we are 13 at NSSF. They only mentioned the 3. They talked of government should also appoint the managing director, Government should also appoint the deputy managing director. Government should also appoint the corporation secretary. I think they forgot the chief finance officer. They forgot the chief investment officer and the risk officer and the human resource manager and the press. You know, so how much can a government enter there? And Sir, Honorable Minister, in that speech, which the President made at the beginning of your cabinet in 2016 June, he also said he wanted to minimize government interference in the private entities. He put it there. It is somewhere there. So, get us a good board, a good qualitative board. Then your board can manage the rest with a good liaison, like we have been doing. You don't have to pick out a few managers here and there. If we go by history, the more you appoint a few managers, the more the confusion starts, the more the difficulty in supervision. Somebody says, you know, you board, you didn't elect me and you didn't nominate me and I report to, you know, but the minister is in a conference in the UN. Oh, I'll wait because you are not my leaders. So really, this is the time to report. This thing has been on the act for the last 34, 35 years. If we have found some weaknesses, this is the time to correct them. And one of them, corporate governance, government should leave the board to appoint managers. Maybe at worst, you can have the managing director at worst, perhaps, because he's also a member of the board. But then the others should be appointed by the board. Now there is one deputy managing director. Suppose the board wanted the two deputy managing directors. Then we come back to the minister. Then we go to parliament. Oh my God. Now, still on the point of corporate governance, Honorable Minister, there is a guidance on a tripartite board by the International Labour Organization that runs bodies similar to NSSF Uganda. And they talk of balanced tripartite. In other words, if you have employers and workers and government, you should have equal representation. Then they can have balanced discussion in the board. But the way it is not clear. The current act is not clear. It gives the 10 members. But is 10 members okay? Maybe they could be less, maybe a little more, I don't know, but perhaps less in the organizations of our nature. Can we have maybe 2 representatives per section, per constituency? Can we have maybe 3 at most? But they should be balanced. If you are going to have 1 here, and 2 there, and 4 there, and 5 and all that, you are going to have an unbalanced discussion with the board. It is a time bomb. And it is not worth it. So, Honorable Minister, on corporate governance, it was one of the main objectives for this legislative review. We are saying, sir, you could go and reflect on it, sir. I told you that I would give my remarks in 4 sections. I have finished the 3 sections. I should go on the 4th and last small section. And in this small and last section, I want to thank fellow Ugandans for the trust that you have continued to bestow on the fund. As I told you, we are collecting 102 billion per month. It is not an easy thing. Even for somebody to trust you with 1 billion is not small. But about 102 billion, and at times more per month. So I want to thank you, and we promise to continue to deliver our obligations with the seriousness that members quite deserve. And as I've already said, I'm requesting our stakeholders to support this NSSF amendment bill, and the government should expedite this process where possible. I wanted to read you as a board one small sentence. Somebody asked me as I entered, he said, can you give us a quote like you gave us last year? And I have one small sentence, and I'm quoting from a very good management guru called Robin Sharma. He has written many books. I know many of you have read them. And he says, leadership is not about a title or a designation. It's about impact, influence, and inspiration. Have we inspired you? Have we made something to impact the members? Apart from our other designations, those we leave to you to ask whether the 11th board is performing, whether NSSF as a fund is performing, whether the staff are performing. We leave the judgment with the membership in this annual members meeting. Honorable Minister, sir, I want to again thank you for having spared your personal time, very valuable. They are ringing you to go everywhere, but you decided to prioritize NSSF. We want to thank you for gracing this function. And I take now this great honor and privilege to invite you, sir, to come and make your remarks. And as I told you, sir, members are waiting for your word about interest rate. Thank you very much.
You told me that. The Auditor General, members of Parliament, do I see members of Parliament? I think we are all we are on the Commonwealth issues, I think. The Chairman of the Board of Directors, the members of the board, the Managing Director and your Deputy, the CEOs of various institutions that are here, NSSF members, the media fraternity. The media, these days you are becoming very nationalistic. I'm very impressed. You know, I had a story with them. I said, love your country. Because when the country is on fire, you will not be able to do your journalism. And I told them, I said, even when you know the truth, not all the truth must be said. Those of you who are married, like I, for many years, if you continue saying everything truth, I'm not saying tell a lie. There is a difference of tell a lie and to hide the truth. Yes. Yeah, because if you know it is going to, by saying that truth, it will upset the board. So you keep it quiet. But journalists these days, you are really reporting nicely for the good of your country. Well done. Our distinguished guests. This morning, I'm in a very high spirit. Because yesterday, I got two beautiful landmarks. One, I graduated, I presided over a graduation ceremony of 500 health workers. And you know, health is life. And me, as your Minister for Finance, the first thing I look at are the human beings, the Ugandans. Because without health population, there is no economy I can talk about. So very, very happy yesterday for that. Then last evening, I won an election. So I'm in very, very top. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to preside over the 2019 NSSF annual members meeting, the 7th time running the fund has had this event. I wish to commend NSSF for taking time to provide accountability to the contributors of the fund who need to know how their life savings are being managed. Accountability. You people there, the owner of the fund, you are our bosses. Without you, there is nothing we can do. So we value, and therefore I want to thank NSSF for making an accountability to you today. And let that continue. I'm also glad to know that the Auditor General has, for the 9th year running, given the fund an unqualified opinion, certifying that the financial statements are a true reflection of the fund in accordance with international standards. I think, Richard, I don't want to overpraise, but you know, there are very many what we call departments and agencies under the Ministry of Finance. I think one of the most well-managed and well-articulated and gives me less headache is the NSSF. Although sometimes we had some personnel issues, but using my own experience, those old issues, we sorted them out, and I think everybody now is happy. Our dear guests, the Ugandan economy, like I've said many times this year and even before, has recovered from the shocks of the 2016-17 and has picked momentum, growing at over 6% last financial year. And this year, we are even projecting a better economic growth. And you remember that story of ours, of which I want to claim. You call it rights? Because it went viral, it went international. So anybody wants to say something is looking very well, he does that sign. In spite of this growth, some sectors such as the equity and the foreign exchange markets were not as competitive as per projections. But also, the economy is growing. Let me use this opportunity. I said it here the other day in our budget conference. There are still some pockets within the economy which are not doing that very well, and where poverty has stuck. But we are going to have a solution for those areas. We are talking now of budgeting and focusing to certain either sectors or certain regional areas in order to combat poverty levels and make everybody come along with the other parts of the country, so that we do not have these people who are poor, extremely poor, then you have got those who are extremely rich. As long as I'm your Minister for Finance, I will not allow that one, because I want every Ugandan to be rich. This will be reflected in the interest rate. I will declare to you members today, because the above issues affected entities like the fund that invest regionally. The MD talked about inflation. And I think even the chairman touched on it. I am a big victim of inflation. In the 70s, I saved my 40,000 shillings with the American insurance company. 40 million shillings would buy a Mercedes-Benz, brand new. 40,000, emitwale ena. That's what was the cost of a brand new Mercedes-Benz. I saved it through my salary. But because of what took place in the 60s, you younger people, listen to us when we tell you things. Because these days I could see Hoima the other day. You first, as the Baganda say, erisoli omukulu awadugala we wakola atya walaba we are still around. What the problem? Consult us, say this. You are going to land your country in difficulties unnecessarily. So the economy during Amin's time, and partly during the Bote II, collapsed. Inflation, today you would buy a toilet piece of soap for, at that time, for a shilling. In the following morning, it is 2 shillings, 100% price increase. So I saved that money I'd saved it between 69 when I started working to about 73. And when the economy collapsed, I lost all that 40 million shillings. I didn't even go to check, because 40,000 shillings became nothing. Those of you, the old men, you may know what that happened. So inflation is something that we must control, and control seriously, because it discourages savings, it discourages investment. Nonetheless, I'm glad to note that the fund size grew by 13%, and the contributions from workers increased by 17%, from 1.049 trillion to 1.208 trillion. This is quite impressive. So workers, thank you for saving. You know, Ugandans, we have a problem among ourselves. We don't take savings very seriously. You can see this is forced, but we're now talking of voluntary. This is money we're talking about comes forced, just cut from your salary, whether you like it or not, and we send the money to NSSF. The employers send the money to NSSF. A country that does not save, A home that does not save, you are lost. You must save. If Ugandans could save, all Ugandans, that's why I'm looking forward to amending that law, which the MD was talking about. If I can get 5% of savings of every Ugandan, I would have all the money here. Then I don't have to go and need. You know, we are old men. When you go to those international banks, you see a small girls come boy. You look humiliated. But because we are poor, I have no choice. You are demanding roads, you are demanding this, you are wanting this. So I have to humble myself. I've learned this day to become very humble. So I am myself before that Kasamoro girl, telling you this. I wouldn't go to be humiliated. Because what I would do, I would borrow from you. As you have heard, we are borrowing from NSSF. But NSSF cannot solve all the problems. Cannot. So, saving culture, please, fellow Ugandans, take it seriously. We were in politics, just to show you what happens in the villages down there. You give somebody 100,000 shillings. The guy makes sure that before he leaves town, he has spent all the 100,000 shillings. He buys this, he goes drink. Saving culture is very poor. To the members of the fund, I have very good news for you. And in the exercise of the powers conferred upon me by Section 35.2 of the National Social Security Fund Act, and after due consultation with the board, I'm pleased to declare that the fund will pay you a very competitive interest rate. You know, I didn't want to compete with the machine, but I'm pleased to announce this year we'll award for your savings 11%. Last year we awarded 15% because the fund, with the environment in which they operated, the money was there. Some people criticized me and said, no, Minister, I have even my own staff. Why did you push it to 15? I said, the money is there. If it's there, why shouldn't I give it back to the owner for the fund? Some people were not agreeing with me. I said, no. When he came, And then some people started insinuating those guys have got the biggest amount of savings, therefore they are trying to reward themselves. I said, what's the mistake with that? They are saying, if I have my money in the bank and I have it in plenty and I earned it very legitimately, shouldn't I be rewarded? So if they are being rewarded, they are rewarding themselves and the money is there, what is the problem? Save more, you will get more. This new rate will be calculated and credited to the balance outstanding on the members' accounts as of 1st July 2018 in accordance with the law. This rate I have declared today is higher than the 6.7 to 10, is higher than 6.7, sorry. This rate I have declared today is higher than 6.7, the 10-year average rate of inflation. So which means your money still holds the value. He tried to describe it in technical terms, but me I will explain to you in simple language. I've told you I have been a victim of inflation. I don't have to repeat it. The higher the inflation moves, the lower the value of what you can buy in the market. And that is how the value of your money is eroded. The more inflation is controlled almost at zero, if that was possible, then the value of your money remains at that level for a long time. And everybody wants his money to remain. Money is a medium of exchange, as you know that very well. If this suit this year is costing, say, 300,000 Uganda shillings, I want to go back next year and find it at the same price. If I find now it is 350,000 shillings, that means the value of my money has gone down, because now it is fetching less than what I would have fetched last year. I hope everybody understands that point. Correct? Therefore, the question of inflation. So when we are sitting in our office there, to ensure that, first of all, the economy grows. The only challenge I've told you is it benefiting? Is it growing for everybody? Is everybody feeling it? But it grows. When it grows, that means expansion. And when it expands, now people earn higher pay or higher profits. When they earn higher pay and higher profits, there's what we call the purchasing power of your shilling. You have a purchasing power in your pocket. You can now demand for various goods and services. But if inflation begins to bite, which means the prices start shooting up, then your shilling is reducing, and therefore you can get less goods and services than you would have got from the money of yesterday. So we must make sure that we control this inflation as best as we can. The unfortunate thing is that at times there are factors that go beyond Uganda. You know, we live in we live now in what you call the world village. Or do you call it world village or village world or whatever you call it? A global village. Some factors, inflation can also be imported, especially if those big economies, they don't run their show very well. Eventually, at the end of the day, we suffer as victims. But here we are trying to do our level best by making sure that we sustain production. No, first of all, we sustain security. We encourage production, both by local and by foreigners, so that prices can remain stable, and therefore your money also the value of your money remains stable. It is also higher than the annual inflation of 3.4 recorded last financial year. I've been fighting to bring it down beyond 3. Just pray for me, maybe one day I will succeed. In summary, the fund has paid you a real return, eliminating the risk of erosion of the value of your savings as a result of inflation and growing the savings in real terms. If you have saved 10 million this year, I want you to buy the same goods and services of 10 million next year. That's what we are saying. I would like to applaud the board and the management for ensuring that members' savings are preserved. Clap for them. Now, before I conclude, I don't want to speak like my chairman. You know, he had the occasion. I did not know that he was an orator. My chairman, I speak so many times, but for him he said, I have got it today. So he really exploited the opportunity. Let me just make some few comments on a few things that have been raised by both the chairman and the ED. I'm glad the fund is now looking at the country as a whole. This question of low-cost houses is an issue. I didn't know that you would be interested in that one because I'm working with the National Housing Corporation, but the National Housing Corporation has had its own problems of governance. Really, as I've told you, I don't want to superintend on an economy that has got so much difference between those who have and those who don't have. Because it's a recipe for trouble in the future, I can tell you that from my own historic experience. We are looking, NSSF, I congratulate you, if you look now to go for the low-cost houses. I feel terribly embarrassed. You know Kisenyi? You know when you are coming from Entebbe? Now many of you maybe now you are flying on the express highway, Katwe Kisenyi. Now Kurabye Kiunya down there. It does not please the eye, and of course does not give us a kitiwa as a country. So, Mr. MD and Chairman, let's see how we can be able to put up low-cost houses, particularly in the, if we could begin with our big towns, and we remove those shanties which make you, I don't know whether you people, I don't know, but me, I feel ashamed to see those bibati and then the sewage is passing on top and whatnot in the midst of a town. Very shameful. Very shameful. So I've been working with the NSSF, with the National Housing. Now I want to incorporate you to help me to put up low-cost houses. You may have to do a little bit of study. I have challenged those people in the National Housing. Can't we do a study of low-cost materials? The other day, I visited a new hospital being constructed by a good Samaritan in Entebbe. You know what I saw? The earth they were scooping. You know when you are building the Karina, scoop like we did on our workers' house there. They didn't take it to go and throw it as it happens. I see. You see somebody struggling. He's struggling. He's removing the earth and he's looking for where to go and deposit that brown soil. They have a technology they compress it into very hard blocks, very hard blocks. So for them, they didn't to carry away that soil. What they did through their technology, and I'm encouraging you, please, if you haven't gone to see, they make bricks, very hard bricks, with a bit of mix of cement. They used those very bricks to build it from the bottom up. And they told me, I will not let me keep this one to myself. They told me it was very cheap to put up the structure. Very cheap. They had the raw materials themselves there. So if we could think along those novel lines, we may be able to get, I would like to have houses which are not more than 30 million. For the ordinary person, for my low-paid civil servants. You know, we reversed we had a plan in the old days, an arrangement in the old days, that a civil servant could stay in a government house. Now that one we discarded. But I want my low-paid civil servants also to own a house without stealing money from the government. Have you heard that? But if a house is going to cost 100 million, I am a Karani. I'm a nurse. Yesterday, I told you yesterday I graduated the health workers, and most of them were nurses and midwives. And you are giving me, say, 1 million shillings, which is not right, correct. You are giving me 1 million shillings a month. I have a family to take care of. Now good, the insurance is coming. I'm fighting on the insurance, that one as well. And in order for me to put up a simple structure, I need 50 million. So where do I get that 50 million? When shall I be able to save 50 million shillings? So no wonder some people at times get tempted. They get tempted. So if you could really able to solve that problem of housing, cheap, low-cost houses. A house maybe even think of 10 million. 2 rooms. 2 rooms for even starters will work. 2 rooms. 1 bedroom. Because when I left university, I lived in a 2-roomed house. There's my bedroom. There's my sitting room, which was also my kitchen. Put my cooker there. So, if you could do that, I would be the happiest, please. And I'm going to give you all the encouragement necessary. Two, there is insurance. Health has become a thorny issue to government. There is a mistaken belief that in Uganda health is free. There is no free health care in Uganda. You fall sick, you will see, even when you go to Morocco. They will tell you this drug is not here. Then they give you a capacity prescription. You go to one again, 30,000 shillings. Imagine for a peasant who has come from Kayumada or from my place in Bunyoro there. So health insurance, I want to use this opportunity. I've discussed it with the minister. We are championing this together, Minister of Health. Let's also get that one running. It's like a saving. I was discussing this matter with some people somewhere. It's like those of, I don't know how many people you know the principle of circles. The principle of circles is that we have a common need. We bring our money in a pool where 100. Not all of us will need to use that money. Kasaija, who now have a need to go and borrow from that circle, go and do whatever I'm doing, but pay back. Maybe another member may never even have need until 10 years. So that circle becomes a pool for where we can access with the members funds to help us sort out our daily problems. Equal the insurance. Not everybody will fall sick on the same day, no. Not everybody will have a serious disease that will need. I have just seen in the press today, there is I don't know whether anyone who has seen, I think it is either in Monitor or New Vision. There is a young man with has a problem, the teeth are almost like this. The mother needs 18 million shillings. Where would that mother get 18 million shillings? But if he was having an insurance scheme, the insurance then will give that lady the money, or to pay the doctor or the hospital where the child is treated, and everybody is happy. So that we need also that one. I thought I should mention about it. Period of payment to members. I have saved my money. Don't pride yourself with the 8 days. Don't pride yourself even with the 5 days. No. I have saved my money with you. Can you go to the bank and have a cashier? And I put a check on the counter and the cashier tells me, Minister, you come back 2 days later. That's when we shall pay you. That system ended during a minute's time. I used to have it during a minute's time. You will put a check that they tell you come tomorrow. There is no cash. Or come the other day. Me, with the new technology, it should be instant. I put in my application today, I get my money by the afternoon. Right there, then when you say there is a challenge, you know, for everything there is always there is always a problem. The hackers, the thieves. You know, for every system, there is always a side effect. I have a son, and the technology these days is moving so fast. You know, he's to pride himself. He said, I'm an IC expert. I'm an IC expert. But these days he's humbling down because every day, what he learned in university now is very much outdated. Yes. Very much outdated. But that's life. Well, that's life. Yes, life is a struggle. It's never easy. It's not simple. So, Mr. Managing Director, if we amend the law and the people can access their money before they are about to die, because the old law is bad. I save my money and you wait until I'm about to. I am agree with the chairman. The intention of having this fund is not to pay you call it the mountain of cash. But we shall still can have that mountain of cash if we extend the net. If we extend the net, we still have that. People can still be taking out the money, they go to work, maybe we get, of course I will also tax something, tax something, so they go to work, create more wealth. Yeah, what's wrong? Give me my money so that money can help me to so much, because saving means you are preparing for a rainy day in the future. But if you tell me come after so many years or after you have retired, I think it's not nice. And therefore for me, I'm not supporting 5 days. I'm not supporting 2 days. I'm supporting at least 1 day.
And we'll give it to you.
Now the law. The chairman really took time to talk about the issues, disagree about them, because some of the issues the chairman was talking about, we are hearing them for the first time. Let's move quickly, because the law should be passed before the end of this year. We need it. So I was whispering to the MD, said, please put all those proposed amendments, if you have agreed as a board first of all, and then I will go before the committee personally this time, because I want this law out of the way. It has held up many things. This fund could even have been performing much better if the law had been amended the way we have proposed. So with those, we shall go to Parliament and do the necessary. In conclusion, we will continue to support the fund to do even better, as the evidence by the NSSF Act Amendment B is not Kachari Mabaga. We have not concluded everything as you heard the chairman, but let's get those good ideas and see how we can incorporate them in the bill. We want a progressive legislation that will usher the fund into the next phase of growth. We shall also deliver a conducive macroeconomic environment so that the NSSF and the many other can excel. That one I've told you already. That's my mission. First of all, peace. Kuch. You know our language in northern Uganda. Kuch. Peace. And I continue reminding you, the youth, when we took over here in '86, I remember you of two things. One, I left Fort Portal to come and swear the president at 8 o'clock because we could never travel before 8 o'clock. I arrived in Mitiana at 4. Let me repeat. I left Fort Portal at 8 a.m. I arrived in Mitiana at 4 p.m. 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon to arrive at Mitiana. Okay, we were on a truck, but the truck these days can move almost as fast as a car. Then I said, I'm proceeding to go and swear the president. The army told me, no, you not proceed, sir. Those of you who knew Mitiana Road, there were a lot of forest. You leave tomorrow, because the swearing was the following day. I said, good, well done. I slept in Mitiana. I left Mitiana, and the swearing was at 1 here at Parliament. I left Mitiana at 8. I arrived around Namirembe at about midday, and I was left with 1 hour. You know, I have a small property around Namirembe there. I just want to check, is it still there or it was bombed? Is it still there? Good enough, I found the thing still standing. I passed via Makerere. I left that place at midday. I arrived at Parliament here at 1. Have you heard? I was almost missing the swearing in ceremony. At 1. Here, from Namirembe. Come like this. One day.
Traffic jam?
Where? I don't want to call it traffic jam, I will call it, what do you call the holes in the road?
The potholes.
Yeah. Pothole jam. Pothole jam. That's what happened that day. I had something else to tell you, but let me reserve this one for me, the youth. I tell you. Let me reserve it for another day. Let me reserve it for another day. Let me hold the truth. So, we shall do everything that we need to do to help the fund grow. And I'm glad the management is now up to task. The chairman thinks we shouldn't bother, the minister should not be responsible for appointing. Now the law says I appointed him. I have to appoint him, and I have to appoint his deputy. I don't know, the corporation secretary. And the chairman is saying, why did you stop there then? You leave this for the board. Let that idea come. Let that idea come. But there must have been a reason, because I wasn't around. There must have been a reason why the minister has to appoint. But we appoint with the approval of the board, with the recommendation of the board. No? Yeah. It's sure still you have. You know, it's also good because this is a very sensitive institution holding maybe if I come to that point, why did the president decide, not cabinet actually, it was not the president, why did he decide that the fund should report to the Minister of Finance? By constitution, the Minister of Finance is responsible for anything called monetary money. So they were following the constitution. Two, because of the sensitivity and the usefulness of this fund in terms of money and investment and savings, that's the role of the Minister for Finance. It's not the role of the Minister of Labor. No, it's not the role of the Minister of Labor. The Minister of Labor can have policies on how labor should be handled, industrial costs and whatnot, but when it comes to money, the man responsible is the Minister of Finance. That's how the thing came out. So we shall do everything to help the fund grow stronger, and we believe that in the next financial, when we come back next year, inshallah, the fund will be still doing much better. And I will be the happiest to declare an interest rate greater than 11%. If I can go back to 15, I will be the happiest for our members. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, we have a tradition at the annual members meeting to take a selfie with everybody involved. So if you stand here and look this way, Mr. Chairman, stand here. So wherever you are, please. Oh, I need some help. My hand is not long enough. Mr. Boji, can you come and help? We want to get in as much of the audience as possible. Right. And the three heads. You want to do it, you'll have to. Okay. Yes.
Photograph first, the audience, and then the
Make sure the audience is in there as well.
Sure. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the Chairman and Honorable Minister. Well, thank you. Yes, we'll now go into a very interesting session. That's the Q&A. I know the workers here and the different stakeholders, you have a number of pressing issues. But before we go into that space, we're going to have a health break of about 8 minutes. We are running a bit, time is not our best ally at this particular moment. But before that, I'd like to remind you, in the little booklet you have on your tables, there's a sheet, a paper, where we need your feedback. We really want to hear from you how this is going for you and whether you have any suggestions of what we can improve. Then there's also a barcode for those that are IT savvy. You can scan that and then do that feedback on your mobile devices or computers if you have any. We'll now take a very quick break and then we'll return with a Q&A session. Thank you.